Oh no, because I don't fuck with nobody. Yeah, I don't fuck with nobody, like at all, nobody. So it's very simple. I stay in my house and it's just me, my homies, my fiance, my little puppy I just got, and I don't fuck with nobody. I don't go anywhere. I don't go to parties. I barely go outside. Like literally, I really don't go outside that much, just because I don't fuck with nobody. I know that seems a little weird, but I refuse to allow any sort of cancer in my life to spread. So I just stay as positive as I can. Oh no, because I don't fuck with nobody. Yeah, I don't fuck with nobody, like at all, nobody. So it's very simple. I stay in my house and it's just me, my homies, my fiance, my little puppy I just got, and I don't fuck with nobody. I don't go anywhere. I don't go to parties. I barely go outside. Like literally, I really don't go outside that much.
Hey, so this is my crib for the night where I'm staying. But you want to see something more magical? First, I'm going to change it to something more adventurous. Come on, follow me. That's better. It's so fast. We made it. Hey, so this is my crib. If you're a friend of everybody, you enemy to yourself. Yes. Yes. So I'm glad we got real. I needed this. This is therapy. And if you're a friend of everybody, you enemy to yourself. Yes. Yes. So I'm glad we got real. Lord, let me tell you.
Most people do not know this about the modern education system. Over 100 years ago in I understand why people.
How to paint a bubble in 2 seconds. Cut the bottom off of a cup and spray around the inside edges. How to paint a bubble in 2 seconds.
Did you draw today? I talked about the chakras. I talked about Rick Rubin. I talked about the 808.
The chakras is real.
Now, I'm gonna say some anti-Semitic shit. I'ma fuck your bitch. I'ma kill this nigga. 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 That's the real anti-Semitic shit that the Jewish people get paid off of.
I don't know what's this opioid thing, man.
Back then, being a crackhead wasn't cool. Now it seems like they're making it cool to be drinking lean and syrup and.
It's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing our society.
Are you
So why sign an artist that would promote that?
Because I already answered that question. You weren't paying attention. She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent. But I have to. I can't give up on people.
Don't you think that's hypocritical though? You're saying
It's opportunistic.
Yeah.
I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
Who's Dame Dash?
I talked about the chakras. I talked about Rick Rubin. I talked about Rick Rubin. I talked about the 808. I talked about the chakras. I talked about Rick Rubin. I talked about the 808.
The chakras is real.
Now, I'm gonna say some anti-Semitic shit. I'ma fuck your bitch. I'ma kill this nigga. 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 That's the real anti-Semitic shit that the Jewish people get paid off of.
I don't know what's this opioid thing, man.
Back then, being a crackhead wasn't cool. Now it seems like they're making it cool to be drinking lean and syrup and.
It's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing our society.
So why sign an artist that would promote that?
Because I already answered that question. You weren't paying attention. She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent. But I have to. I can't give up on people.
Don't you think that's hypocritical though? You're saying
It's opportunistic. Yeah. I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a coach about you.
Who's Dame Dash?
Might talk about this. Might talk about this.
Yeah. Instead of just scrolling through some fucking Instagram reels and shit. Ain't shit on right now. Let me go to YouTube, see if we can find something to listen to. While we start getting back on this fucking thing right now.
Take over this.
Oh, no, let's use our logic against her. Question for you real fast. You want a man that's stronger, taller, more ambitious, and makes more money than you, I would assume? You would? Okay, what if I called you a dumb bitch that's broke? How would that make you feel?
That'd be incorrect.
Fantastic. So why is it that a man that wants a woman that's young, attractive, and fertile, insecure, and weird, or what the fuck, whatever shame language you used?
Well, you're talking about physicality, but you were talking about physicality, but I'm speaking about.
No, I'm just using your logic back against you. See how what a man wants is demonized versus what you want is not demonized? Not one of the guys here is insulting women for wanting a man that's taller, more ambitious, or makes more money or successful. Men understand this and accept it. That's why men go out into the world and work and become better versions of themselves. Women don't accept it. They think they should be taken however they come. And my argument is that women need to self-improve just like men do. Just that they have the hubris to think that they're perfect the way they come. Oh, no, let's use our logic against her. Question for you real fast. You want a man that's stronger, taller, more ambitious, and makes more money than you, I would assume? You would? Okay, what if I called you a dumb bitch that's broke? How would that make you feel?
That'd be incorrect.
Fantastic. So why is it that a man that wants a woman that's young, attractive, and fertile, insecure, and weird, or what the fuck, whatever shame language you used?
Well, you're talking about physicality, but you were talking.
I never heard of these guys before.
A lot of people don't know this, but the best way to prevent divorce and stop separation and getting your wife back is not talking about your problems. It's not trying to make your wife happy and begging her. And it's definitely not seeing a couples therapist. Now, you may be saying to yourself right now, well, if it's not those things, then what is it? But over the past 8 years as a licensed therapist, I've been absolutely upset.
Truly leave their husbands and what causes couples to restore their marriage in a matter of weeks, and I call it the ERN method. Look, I don't care if your wife wants you, she wants space, she wants you to move out. She said, I love you, but I'm no longer in love with you, or she even handed you the dreaded divorce papers. This is a done-for-you system with 3 steps involved to get your wife back without bending over backwards to make her happy. Now look, the reason why this works so well is because as a licensed, I saw that the traditional method of talking about your problems only made things worse. I spent years
DVO, Maxo, short-term bang, the attractive guy, and long-term marry, the rich guy. What do you bring to the table?
That's a very good one. Very good one.
Do we want to go around the table with that one?
So, okay, I'll add a caveat to that as
Yeah,
well,
sure,
right?
go
So,
ahead.
for example, what do you bring to the table outside of sex?
Say again?
Okay, what do you bring to the table?
You're still Chinese or
Foreign question. Okay. Miss Mexico.
Yes.
What do you bring to the table to a man, right? That you're taking serious
Yeah.
outside of sex?
What do you think she will bring besides sex?
I'm going on the panel.
Have you ever been in a relationship that you obviously have sex, but what does she bring to the table besides that? Tell me.
Well, I'm asking you the question.
I have an answer, but I'd like to know yours.
Okay, well, let's go on the panel first, and then we'll get past your question.
For me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm definitely supportive, I'm definitely ambitious, and I like to be a part of your idea. So I can say comprehensive. Yeah, I got my emotions sometimes, and I want to say my opinion, but and overall, like, I have really good intentions. I want to see you grow, because if you grow, I grow. Obviously good sex, great communication, and I'm definitely adventurous. So I'm super down. I'm open-minded. I'm down. So I'm fun. And that's what I bring to the table.
Okay, but we mentioned no sex.
Okay, no sex. Besides no sex, okay. Yeah, I'm supportive. I'm ambitious. I'm adventurous. I'm definitely open-minded. You know, to a lot of things. So, yeah, I'm a good time. I'm a good time.
My answer is I don't know. I don't know what I would bring to the table. If this is me, you like it, you don't, let's find out. Let's figure it out together.
Okay, I mean, you're keeping it real. I like that. At least being honest.
Wait, you said you have a boyfriend though, right?
Yeah, I do.
Well, what do you do for him then?
Oh, a lot of things. Do you want to know?
I mean, we really just asked you that.
Do you want to ask him?
Yeah, I'm asking you. I mean, you said I'm not sure what I bring to the table, and then I'm like, wait, aren't you in a relationship?
Honestly, when I'm in a relationship, I'm not like, what am I bringing to the table? Is he happy if I do this? I don't question myself all the time. I'm like, this is who I am. Maybe today.
But do you notice something interesting?
Yes.
When you were asked what you're looking for long term, you had a laundry list of stuff you mentioned. But then when you're asked what
I just said fun, good sex, and somebody who would like change with me, and we both like grow together.
Okay, so let's say you brought 4 things, but then when you were asked what do you bring to that person, then you're like, I don't know. You understand how there's like a confusion there?
It's not confusing for me. I don't know if there's somebody else that's not as confused as you.
All right, I'm the confused one. I'll take that.
All right. So I think I bring a lot to the table. I'm super motivated. Like, you just want to be my man. You need the support system, and I'm all about my man. I support him. I encourage him. I motivate him. I push him. I'm there for him. I love him. I'm all about him as long as he's all about me.
Okay, so you cater to your man then?
Yeah.
Does that include if he wants to have sex with other girls though?
Absolutely not. You already know that.
Then in that case, she does not support you, my gentleman.
Stop it. We're not going there.
In that case, she does not support you. Okay.
Well, for me, it's friend. I bring in perspective. I teach them. Also, with my current boyfriend, for example, I'm teaching him Spanish. But definitely a best friend, somebody that you can rely on, that you can talk to, that you can play with, that you can just feel like yourself with no armory, You can just relax and be yourself without the stress that goes on in the world.
So no judgment.
No judgment.
Does he like?
There's
Does
a
he
type
talk
of
about his?
unconditional love.
Does he? Wait, you said unconditional love?
There's a type of unconditional love because when it comes to friendship, when you have a friendship with someone, you love them for who they are, flaws and all.
So you're telling me that your relationship is unconditional love?
As of now, yeah, I would say so.
Okay. All right, excellent. All right. I believe that that's a fallacy. All love is conditional, especially on the female side, but that's okay.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah, that's
If he loves his job.
If you're saying definitely out of your experiences, then you're telling your life, definitely. Because there exists unconditional love. I agree with her. You have unconditional love from your mother, you have unconditional love from your brother.
Yes.
And it does
That's family
exist.
love.
And if you
That's
haven't
family love.
experienced it, then you would say it doesn't.
That's family love.
I would ask you, if you're married to somebody,
Hypotheticals.
hypothetical, right?
Mhm.
10 years from now, you're married to somebody, you have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
He stops working, he stops talking to you, stops talking to you, stops basically being involved with you. Would you still love this man if you kept that off?
still love them, but I would definitely have to love myself more in order to leave and let them figure out their life. Because a lot of times women want men to change, but people don't realize that you can't make people change. People have to go through their own process. And sometimes that process requires them to hit rock bottom. So if that person needs to go through their journey and you not being there is part of that, and you do it out of love, then that is necessary. And when that person is able to change and go back to you, you truly love them, you would take them back because you know who you fell in love with. You know who that person is. And everybody has downs. Everybody goes through depression. Everybody has bad moments, you know.
Yeah. All right, let me translate that womanese for you guys. Basically what she's saying is, as long as you continue to be who you were when I first met you, then I will be
I don't
there.
think she said that.
I did not say that. That is mansplaining.
Yes.
You're changing my words.
Well, and basically what I am saying is that I'm just translating because you said a lot there without really saying much. But what it really...
I heard a lot. I don't know about you, but
But that's not unconditional love.
That's not unconditional love, though.
What is unconditional love for you?
Love for you?
It means when you love somebody.
No,
matter
for
what it
him,
is.
for him, for you,
it-
Mr. Freshbit.
No. It's very simple. There's no such thing as unconditional love. There's conditions to everything in the world. And the reason why I had to say something was because, man, don't listen to that advice ever. Because women will say that to you. Oh, unconditional love, and I'm gonna love you, whatever.
As
And
long
that's-
as you make somebody outside
Can you
from
let me-
yourself
can you let me finish?
responsible,
Can you
it's
let
going to
me
be a
finish? Can you let me
conditional
finish?
love.
You let me finish? So
Please
what I was saying
finish.
is that love is always conditional to some degree. As a man, you have to bring something to the table for a woman to love you. Now, I get what you guys are saying, the Disney
But-
fairy tale, but that's not how the world works.
I think that's what you've
Can you stop
learned
cutting me
in
off?
life.
Seriously, can you stop cutting me off?
Do you feel like I'm cutting you
You
off?
are. Yeah,
I think this
yeah.
was like
You've
a
done it twice
conversation, not
now.
a monologue.
No. Ask a question?
Alright.
Did you not ask me a question?
Yeah,
So,
I was
well,
asking you
unconditional
what
love,
is
which I was
unconditional
doing,
love.
And then you cut me off twice. I counted it.
Are you mad?
Hey, listen.
Not at all.
Because I'm under the impression that you just got like super mad.
No. It's rude to cut people off.
No,
It's
hold
not
on.
your own
I
platform.
was trying to just.
Hey, pause. Listen, end of the day, I
Say
told you
something.
before the show, right? It's a podcast. Turn off. Explicitly said it's over and over again. Yes, it's me. I'm the producer, okay? Cut Martin off. It's bad radio. Get one final warning. If not, we have 3 ladies on the couch.
Oh,
More-
I don't mind
You know
leaving
what?
this show if
Goodbye.
I'm not allowed to
Goodbye.
talk.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
You gotta respect the platform and not cut people off.
Thank you.
I'm myself.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
go ahead.
yourself you can take yourself outside.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. Trey, can you get up? Thank you, Trey. All right. Okay, so one down.
Sure.
One down.
You up. No, you're not gonna use the restroom.
So, you know what? I thought this was going to be a great show.
We
I mean,
just have to
it's
do
a
it.
bad show. No, I mean, we're not coming up. But, oh, here you go. Well, we can let him handle that.
I think it's just
So, Fresh,
sad
go ahead,
to
Fresh.
think that one holds the truth. So let's just keep an open mind,
Hmm.
you know, listen to each other and be willing to also change our own perspectives
Hmm.
because that's what actually makes a good dialogue.
Hmm.
So let's keep it on that note.
I do agree with you, but you did say that there is unconditional love, but then you said something else that said there isn't, because you said if he wasn't loving you how you wanted to love you, you would go away.
No.
Out of love, but it would be out of love.
Um,
Because let me know if I paraphrase. I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, sure.
Essentially, for
Explain.
you, if you love somebody, sometimes you have to leave them because it's the compassionate thing to do so that they can figure themselves out. And you're doing that out of love. Is that correct?
When you try to change someone, it puts on more stress for them, the feeling of having to change because you are disappointing your loved one. So sometimes people have to take their own journey. And for that, sometimes you have to leave out of love for them to figure themselves out. And that is okay, it's completely normal. It's just like when you leave your house, your mom, because you got mad at her, and then you go and you figure yourself out, and then you come back. An explanation, a hypothetical of a teenager that has to go back to the house. But if you're talking about someone that you're married to, as you said in your example, you have 3 kids with them and blah, 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 then definitely, if you want to raise your kids in a good way and your person is not in a good mental space and they need to figure themselves out, then definitely you need to let them go and wait for them in case they want to change, because it's a personal choice. You can't change people.
Okay. But hold on. No. Because, right, if you are a mother and your son does something crazy, you still love him.
Of
if your
course.
husband,
Isn't that unconditional love?
yeah, that's a mother and a son. But if your husband cheats on you, does a bunch of crap to you, you're gonna love him and take him back? Probably not. So that's not unconditional love.
It does exist though. Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce. You're aware of it, right?
Yeah, I'm aware.
She took him back.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, ladies.
She has a kid with him.
Yeah.
She has a kid with him, right?
You want to handle this? You know what? Listen, there's some women who understand that there's things that matter more in life than whether or not you're married. Some people believe in legacy. Some people build an empire. She knows that if she probably left the man, everything that they've been striving for together would probably just not work out, and they'd have to do things apart. So sometimes you sacrifice. That's not necessarily an indication of unconditional love. It just means like, you know what, I'm gonna tolerate this because I believe that the thing that we're working for is more important. And I would also say this: I'm not mad at you. You have your ideas. You have your perception of love or whatever it is.
To be mad.
But I would also say, as you get older in life, you start to realize that there are conditions, there are aspects. Whether it's marriage, whether it's love, it's like, if you don't hold up your end to the bargain and it goes on long enough, I gotta go do this. And you can say, oh, I still love you and I'm doing this so it can help you change. You need to realize rock bottom. But from the man's perspective, it's like, you're bailing because I'm not doing what you need me to do and you don't love me unconditionally. It was based off of whether or not I met those needs.
I think that's just one perspective.
Sure.
Definitely there's many perspectives to that. If you talk about marriage, then you have vows, and if you break those vows, then it's kind of like breaking love. But when you have those vows and you say till love do us part, sickness and death and whatever, saying is you're staying with that person even though you know there will be disagreements and mistakes, and you are promising to work it out, not work it out. When you get a divorce, right? You're breaking your vows. You're basically falling on your own ways because you are deciding to do so. It does not mean that you one day from another decide, I'm not gonna love that person anymore. We are all humans, you know? Feel love even though they understand that they have to leave each other for the greater good, because you don't want to raise a kid with two parents that are constantly fighting or that simply cannot get along anymore because of the different perspectives and views. But when you get married, that's what you're promising to do. You're promising to figure it out together.
That sounds great, but women initiate over 80% of the divorces. But you know, it is what it is, right?
So I want to say something here. It is not a debate about women against men. I think that's something that I feel it in the table. Like
Hold on. Here's the thing, though. Your feelings are irrelevant to fact.
Talking about feelings, mostly I'm talking about the fact that we are all humans and humans have feelings, and you're mostly an emotional being. More than you want to think that you are a logical being, you are a highly emotional being. And you might want to deny that, but the truth is you just had an altercation with somebody else, told them to leave out of emotion.
No, out of principle and fact. She cut me off twice, and then we said, hey, one more time, and then she did it again. And after we warned her,
and when she left, you can take yourself home, and that's an emotional reaction.
No, listen, it's a fact reaction. She can leave, physically get up and leave. Because
I'm talking about the afterward.
Don't cut me off. Once again, see, I told her the rules. The producer, I told you many times. Girls have hearing and they don't pay attention, all right? I told her before the show, if you talk over Myron, the rules is you will get booted out. And what happened? She didn't follow the rules. It wasn't emotional. We warned her. I told her to leave.
And she asked me the question too, which is funny.
Yeah.
Like, she literally asked me to define unconditional love or conditional. Like what? Okay. And then it cut me off twice in the same sentence.
I kept going.
Wendy.
It is. You gotta either adapt with it or complain, but that's all you really can do.
Yeah.
Adapt or complain.
Yeah. Men complain when they're young and can't get girls. Women complain when they're older and can't get a husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I
all.
think just going back to the question though, I think it's a little unfortunate that you guys don't want to at least even just say that you think that it's wrong, the reality is wrong. Because look, that the fact that that's the reality, that's the reality. Of course, yeah, I see that. The fact that you guys just can't answer my question and say
Because
yes, I
men
think
are
it's
objective.
wrong. It's a little telling. And you know what? You guys are saying the whole time that we don't want to answer questions, but you guys didn't even answer my question. So
We
did
just
answer
did.
it.
No,
Multiple
you-
times.
you guys,
told you
you
we
said
don't
no
have an opinion.
comment. Multiple times you guys said I can't comment on that. No comment.
No,
But that's fine. You know.
We
No,
just
we
give
told
you
you. We literally
a
gave you
long
an
ass
answer.
answer
You just don't like the
Maybe-
answer.
of why reality is the way it is.
But if
I-
you would have asked us, you would like, okay, well, what do you think? What do you think was okay? Well, don't worry about what other people are outside of it. But well, how do you?
This is the difference between how men and women think. This is a perfect example right now. Guys, take your fucking notebooks down. Notice how we said we accept reality, right, for what it is. Fuck our feelings. We accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
You guys want us to get on the female lens and feel it's wrong or right.
Our hope.
And we're telling you that reality is immoral, so we don't care. Men aren't, our feelings are irrelevant. We accept objective reality. So, oh, how do I feel about this? We don't feel anything. We accept it.
Understand the reality, but this was the segment. This was the part of the show that you guys were saying, do you have any questions for us? And I was asking you
answered it.
for your opinion, and you guys were saying, oh, I can't comment on this. Maybe you guys should just watch this podcast back and see what I was saying, because I feel like you guys are not understanding, or you just don't want to. You don't want to say the words, which I understand because this is what your podcast like relies on. This is your whole basis of your podcast. You guys are like reframing misogynistic ideals for modern men to consume and be okay with. So, but that was my question, and if you guys don't want to answer it, that's
What
fine.
was misogynist?
Yeah, can you tell us what was misogynistic about the podcast?
Please tell us.
You guys can just scroll through your Instagram page, you guys.
Can you tell us what was misogynistic?
Just one thing.
One thing?
Because that's a pretty serious claim.
It is.
That's a pretty,
You guys have your
assertive claim.
preferences, and you guys have your preferences, which is fine. But there are definitely some misogynistic tendencies you guys have, especially throughout
Can
your
you tell us
Instagram
what it is
page.
then?
Yeah, for example, on one of your posts, said there was an example that you wanted to hook up with a girl, she didn't want to hook up with you, which is fine, like you said it was fine.
Yeah.
To put her in her place. So I said, okay, guys, if a girl doesn't want to hook up with you, that's fine, but put her in her place. You gotta call another girl in front of her and let her know, like, it just seems like in that little video I saw, it's like your ego is so hurt by the fact that a woman doesn't want to sleep with you that you have to go out of your way to disrespect her instead of just leaving her apartment and going. You have the freedom to do what you want to do. You want to go sleep with 5 girls after her? That's fine. But it's just like, you guys definitely have those misogynistic tendencies, and I see it in your comments, girls, going off in your comments, and it's just like, but I get it. This is the basis of your podcast. This is the why guys watch your podcast. Your fan base is just like you guys, a lot of the time, I'm sure. But, I mean, it's interesting to hear, and I thank you for inviting me, and,
All right, so hold on,
it was
no.
great.
I gotta look that.
No, of course, yeah.
So, okay. So, when a woman says, I don't want to have sex, she's making a boundary, essentially, right? She's saying she doesn't want to have sex, right? So, what is wrong with me also having a boundary and saying, if you don't want to have sex, now you no longer get my attention, leave? What is wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so how is that misogynistic that I'm exerting a boundary as well in response to her exerting her boundary?
No, saying to leave is fine. I'm saying, you said that, like, no, guys, you gotta put her in her place. You gotta put her in her place, and in that moment, you gotta call a girl in front of her. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I said I'll call a girl in front of her,
Yeah.
but the point is that you need to remember, keep in mind that I'm teaching men, not women. So what a lot of guys will do is they'll let the girl sit there and continue to get their non-sexual attention and think it's okay.
And hope.
You're reinforcing undesirable behavior from the woman, and you're letting her know it's acceptable for you to withhold sex from me. And what I'm telling men is, no, that's not acceptable. Kick her out of your house. Just like you have the ability to boundary. I don't want to have sex. I don't feel comfortable. Cool.
That's fine.
On the male side, I don't feel comfortable hanging out with you anymore now. You have to leave. The problem is this, ladies. Anytime a man exerts a boundary, right, wants from a woman, especially if it's sexual, it's considered misogynistic. So in other words, it's okay for women to say what they want from men, but it is not okay for men to say what they want from women. And what we simply tell guys is, you have the option to kick her out too. You don't have to sit there and tolerate her leveraging sex against you for compliance. That is not misogynistic. Do you know what the definition of misogyny is?
That's not you telling her to leave or you leaving is not
What does misogyny
misogynistic.
mean? What does misogyny mean?
It's like being against women in general.
No, it is the hatred and or contempt of women.
Yes. Thank
Where
you
do
for
we
that
say we hate
dictionary
women?
definition.
Please tell us where.
Where do we hate women?
Where?
Where do you hate women?
Yes.
Is that the only definition of misogyny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why.
Very strong words.
It's a very
And
very
you've also-
serious accusation. So if you're going to say that, then back it up with. We have no problem.
Yeah,
with
I mean,
people
I
saying we're
just
misogynists.
gave you a full example. You can play it back on the podcast later if you want to listen to it again. But you've even called a woman a bitch on your podcast live. Sorry for saying the B word.
Hold on. How does me exerting a boundary show that I hate women?
She meant patriarchal and not
No.
misogynistic.
Let her answer it.
Let her answer it.
Thank you. Wait.
I already explained it wasn't the fact that you were setting a boundary. You were saying in the video, oh, I have to put a woman in her place because she doesn't want to have sex with me. So I'm gonna go ahead and call a woman in front of her just to make a point and make her feel disrespected. And it's just like that type of behavior is just so unnecessary. If your ego is that hurt that a woman doesn't want to sleep with you, then just leave or just tell her to leave. Like, why do you have to be disrespectful like that? And then like on another video, you were on live calling a woman a bitch. It's like I just think that's a little disrespectful, very disrespectful.
Okay, so there's a couple things that here. So number one, by telling a girl to leave, that does not mean that I hate women.
I didn't say that.
That's what misogynistic means. It means you hate women.
That's what you're saying, basically.
I didn't say because he told her to leave, that's misogynistic. I'm saying he was saying that guys, you gotta put women in their place. Like if we're some submissive dogs that need to be put in our place, like no, we don't.
Who leaves relationships, men or women?
Relationships?
Yeah.
Men most of the time, yeah.
Okay. So by asserting dominance, what are you doing? You're taking leadership of the relationship, right, or the interaction, correct? Okay. So you're asserting dominance, which is what men should do and what makes men attractive in the first place. So attraction isn't moral, as I said before. And nowhere in there did I say I hate women by exerting a boundary. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with a woman saying I don't want to have sex. And it's also nothing wrong for me to say you need to leave and I'm going to call another woman. Home, I can do what I want. If I want to call a woman in front of her, that's whatever. But that in no means I'm a misogynist.
Saying the way you talk about women, yeah, and it's just I'm saying the way you were saying it. Oh, if a woman doesn't want to have sex with you, men, you have to put her in her place.
Okay,
like
you gotta use
hate
logic here.
repeating myself.
You're going off of feelings like.
So it's not what he said, it's how he said it, right?
No, it is what he said. He said what he said in the video. You guys can play it or rewatch it. I don't know what you want to do. And like I said, you've called women a bitch. The B
When did I
word
call a woman a bitch? When?
It's on your Instagram page. I saw it yesterday.
Okay, so hold on.
What she do?
Hold on. Yeah, because that's the thing. I've called men bitches. I've called women bitches. I've insulted everyone that you don't like. Women have fought for equality. Therefore, they're equal and they can make their own decisions. Correct? From a society standpoint, right? Same rights, same privileges, whatever. I can't think of a right or a privilege that a woman has that a man doesn't. I can find privileges that women have that men don't.
A lot.
So, with that said, women are free to make their choices. The difference is that there's consequences to these choices. You don't want to have sex? Cool. Now you must leave. Misogynistic about me exerting a boundary just like she did. Number two, a woman a bitch. I insult everyone the same. I've kicked men off this show. I've kicked women off this show. So, women don't get privilege for being did something wrong for me to call her that. Are you a misogynist because you refer to other women as bitches? I'm sure you have referred to other women as bitches. Are you a misogynist for that?
When women refer to other women as bitches, it's like, oh, hey, bitch. It's not like, you're a fucking bitch. Like, no, sorry.
Okay, have you never called a woman a bitch in a degrading form? To shit on her, or you fucking bitch, you've never done that.
Of course I've called a woman.
Are you a misogynist?
Well, but
Okay.
I'm saying that in that video, what you were doing is like, it seems like your ego was so hurt that the girl didn't want to sleep with you that you have to go out of your way to call a woman in front of her just to make her feel bad. And like you were talking about women in a way that you have to teach them a lesson if they don't want to sleep with you. And it's just like, why? Why can't a woman just not want to sleep with you because she doesn't want to sleep with you?
And that's okay, but there's consequences to that.
Why should there be consequences if I don't want to
hold
sleep
on.
with you?
If you don't want to sleep with me, why should I continue to give you attention? You're not entitled to my time or my attention. That's the problem. So women, Women are not entitled. I'm going to say that again. Women are not entitled to a man's time, attention, or resources if she does not want to reciprocate on her end and give him sexual access. You are not entitled to it. And for a man to exert boundaries and say, listen, you got to get out and or call another woman in front of her, it doesn't matter. You no longer want to give what the man wants. He's within his right to kick you out any way he sees fit, just like you are within your right to withhold sex from him.
You just said there should be consequences if a woman doesn't want to sleep with you. That
yes.
is so troubling. Like
How's that
that
troubling?
is just see how that's weird? Like that's just weird.
So it's okay for you to have multiple dates with a guy.
Consequences?
Hold on. It's okay for you to go on multiple dates with a guy, right? Pay for everything. That's okay too, right?
Wait, I'm sorry. Is he entitled to having sex with me just because he takes me on dates?
No, I'm saying if you go multiple dates with a guy, right?
Yeah.
And you feel like, you know what? I don't want to give him sex. That's okay, right?
I think you should do whatever you want to do on guys, and like sexually, if you don't want to have sex with a man after 5 days, you don't have to.
Perfect. So if he wants to call a girl in front of you, that's his prerogative, right?
Of course. I'm just saying he was saying to do that as a consequence because to shame a woman.
Well,
It's because you're not having sex with me,
well,
I'm gonna call someone and make you feel some type of way.
Yes,
It's
because the consequence is him calling the girl. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the same thing as a girl, punching a guy for not having sex.
Punching a guy? You said?
No, punishing.
Oh, punishing a guy?
The point is that it's okay for women to withhold sex from men with zero consequence, but it's not okay to kick out girls and or hold them to some kind of consequence when they don't want to give sex.
You can do whatever you want. I just think that in the video that I'm talking about, you guys are saying it in a very disrespectful way, saying that there should, and like you just said, there should be consequences if she doesn't want to sleep with you. It's like, at the end of the day, I'm sorry, guys are not entitled to your body, like regardless how many
and you're
dates
not
you go
entitled
on.
to a man's time.
Yeah, and if you, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead. I've been talking too much.
rapey, I get what you're saying, but he probably didn't in that way.
But it does sound a little rapey. Just a little bit.
No. Yeah. See, this is the thing.
Man.
And this is why this podcast is so important.
Yep.
Guys, this is the reality of the world. Want to be able to exercise the discretion to give you sex anytime they see fit, but they don't want you to exercise the discretion to withdraw attention and or time at any time you see fit when you no longer get what you want.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, I literally said, she doesn't want to give me sex, she's got to leave. But you guys have a problem with that when I say there's consequences. Just like it just...
No, I'm saying the manner in which you're going about it and saying that women have to be, like I said, like have to be punished, like there's consequences because you don't want to have sex with me, that I have to make you feel bad because you don't want to have sex with me.
If a woman does not give you desired behavior, you should punish that bad behavior.
And you were talking about women as if we're like these dogs that have to be submissive and like trained into being these submissive creatures that, it's like, there's something wrong with that to me.
Well, just so you know, right, most Western women are not feminine at all. So, to be a part of a man's lifestyle, hey, she may need to be trained to be feminine. So, like, that's normal. So, women in Colombia...
we should play the video.
Oh,
we should play the video. Let's get the video and play it. We got 11,000 live viewers. Because here's the thing. If you're going to call someone a misogynist, then you never need to be able to back it up. So we will give you the access to the video. Which video was it? Let's go on our Instagram.
TikTok.
And pull it up. Was it
I think
TikTok?
it was TikTok. We posted on Instagram.
Okay.
I think so.
So, is it on IG?
Yeah. So go to Fresh and Fit.
Yeah, I guess it's on IG somewhere. We're going to go on the Fresh and Fit one. And here's the thing, like I said, this isn't to attack you or anything, but it's just like, if you're going to make a claim and say someone's a misogynist, which is a pretty...
look,
that's pretty serious
I get how you feel, but to say misogynistic, man, that's a whole
and
nother dynamic.
You guys may think that, like, obviously it sounds like I'm being very harsh right now, but I'm not saying you guys are flat out going to be saying misogynistic things like, oh, women, S-H-I-T, whatever. But I'm saying I can tell that you guys have a lot of misogynistic tendencies in the way you think, maybe, and like,
oh, really?
I feel like you guys should be a little, just be a little open-minded to that, I think. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, like, minded to your flaws sometimes. I think everyone should be.
So you're saying that we hate women, basically?
When did I say that?
Misogyny is the hate of women.
Yeah.
I said,
saying that.
you're taking this to the extreme. I said that you guys, just like a lot of men, have some misogynistic tendencies. And I think, you should be open to, like, maybe understanding some of your flaws, just like, I should be open to understanding my flaws. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We can all improve in a lot of ways.
Okay, but we're asking you. You said we're misogynists.
Yeah, you guys have
okay, so all right, let's which video is it? Which one?
Yeah. Or I think it's a TikTok
Which
one.
one is it?
No.
It was on Instagram. I forgot what it was called.
Down. You gotta go when the older ones come down, down.
You scroll all the way down to on the video?
I don't remember exactly where it was.
Okay, come down.
I'm still trying to figure.
I think this one here.
Was it this one?
Yeah.
I don't want to have bedroom fun.
Yeah,
Is that one it?
On left,
I
side, Chris.
think, I'm not sure.
That one, yeah.
Is this one it?
Play.
All right.
This is it.
This is it, right? The girl's at your crib and she says, "Oh, I don't want to have any bedroom fun." Totally cool. You can't get mad. You basically get up, say, "All right, no problem," and you're gonna go call another girl. Okay? What happen is she's gonna hear you talking to another girl. Decision anxiety spikes, and then you're gonna come back and you're gonna tell her, "Listen, I respect your boundaries. I understand you don't want to have any bedroom fun, but I got my needs, and I'll see you later." And you tell her to leave. Simple as that, guys. Never let a girl leverage bedroom fun against you to try to get some compliance. She's within her right to not give you the fun, but you're within your right to get the fun from somebody else. Don't be stupid. Don't chase, replace.
Okay. What's hard about that with misogynistic? Please tell me, because that to me makes common sense. If you don't want to have sex with me, cool. You say you're right. You can leave if you want to, but guess what? I got my rights as well. I want to get laid. Hey, Susie, what's up? Come through.
Course.
What's wrong with that?
So what is misogynistic about that
Of
video?
course, no. You have your right to whatever you want to do after that. But I'm saying, you don't see the part in the video where he's like, you said you have to manipulate the woman just because she play these mind games because she didn't want to have sex with you. Yeah, like give her anxiety, like literally give a woman anxiety because she doesn't want to have sex with you. You said it.
There's no manipulation.
In the video, you just said it. Yeah.
She can leave at any time. What do you say? Respect her boundaries. She can leave.
Somebody, anybody, everybody scream!
There's squirrels in my pants!
That girl's got some serious squirrels in her pants.
There's squirrels in my pants!
Now somebody...
You go and get yourself help.
Yeah, I will.
You need it.
I'll get fucking help. I'm getting rid of my fucking stupid, crazy neighbor.
Oh, get your dog away from mine.
This is my yard, you stupid fucking bitch.
No, your dog is not to be on a leash.
Really? He's standing in my fucking yard.
But he's supposed to be on a leash. You go and get yourself help.
Yeah, I will.
You need it.
I'll get fucking help. I'm getting rid of my fucking stupid, crazy neighbor.
Oh, get your
This is my yard, you stupid fucking bitch.
No, your dog is not to be on a leash.
Really? He's standing in my fucking yard.
But he's supposed to be on a leash.
Psoriatic arthritis made my joints stiff, swollen, painful.
Emerge Tremfyant. Tremfya is approved to help reduce joint symptoms in adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Some patients even felt less fatigued.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge Tremfyant with Tremfya. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Spectacular savings all month long. At Bennett Infinity, elevate your ride with affordable luxury SUVs as low as $499 a month for a 2022 Infiniti QX50. Built to fit your lifestyle, we have the perfect sized SUV for you. Step up to a brand new Infiniti today at your home for new and certified pre-owned Infinitis. Bennett Infiniti of Wilkes-Barre. Your way, right away.
So, not Eastern theology today. Zach is a Christian, and many of you will know who Matt is. He's an atheist and well known for his debating skills and logic, and Zach is a Christian. He runs a small YouTube channel where he hosts discussions on philosophy of religion-related topics. And rather than the usual introductions, I thought I'd ask our guests what they hope to achieve for the audience in today's discussion, or get out of the discussion themselves. So, Matt, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks for having me here. It's I don't know Zach, and I apologize. Between all the other things going on, I haven't actually seen his channel, but I'll check something out later. I just like having the discussions, and quite often there's a lot of people who will do the generic, does God exist, instead of defending what they actually believe, and nobody ever suggested that they would defend the notion that a perfect mind is responsible for creating the universe, and I want to find out if I missed something, and if other debate opponents that I've been with have missed something as well, so I'm looking forward to it.
Cool, thanks for that. And Zach?
Yeah, I just look forward. Thanks for having me. Just to like talking with Matt and trying to understand what he believes more and seeing like where we agree, where we disagree, and yeah, just trying to look at some questions and dive into it. And I just hope for everyone listening that you just find something edifying from this. And I know we're not all going to come down to my side of the fence or Matt's, but yeah, just take something away from this, and hopefully it serves your time well.
Cool. So the format today, we're doing maximum 10-minute openings, and then we'll have open discussion, and then we're going to save 20 minutes at the end for discussion, and we're going to try to keep it all down to a 90-minute video. So, Zach, take the floor.
Alrighty, can you see my slides and everything like that?
Give me a second to set that up, actually. Do you want to get started while I set that up, or it'll probably take a minute?
Sure, yeah. First, I'll just say, like, thanks to Matt to agreeing to do this. One of the things I really value about Matt is it seems like he's super just willing to talk to anyone about anything. It seems like, you know, some people, maybe if they have a big platform like Matt, they'll be like, oh, you have to have like 100,000 followers or whatever to have a conversation with me. So I value Matt a lot, and I really hope that this serves his time well and serves everyone else's listening time well. So, yeah, I'm a Christian, I'm a theist, I believe God exists. Specifically, I'm going to say that a perfect mind created the universe. And yeah, this will be my opening presentation. And I will wait until the slides are ready from here, because I would love for people to just kind of read what we're getting at to get the specific definition. So when you're ready, I'll just dive right into it. So yeah, super excited.
Should have come up, let me try. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, your slides here.
Well, so what do I mean by God? I'm going to say the conceptions of maximal greatness differ, but theists believe that a maximally great reality must be a maximally great person, or God. These largely agree that a maximally great person would be omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, and all good. That's from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy on Concepts of God. The definition that I want to defend is that a perfect mind is a perfect mind that created the universe. And by mind, I'm going to think something like a source of like consciousness. So my case for God's existence, I don't have some like knockdown proof where I'm like, here's my 3 premises, boom, God exists, Matt, like, what are you thinking here? That's not how I'm doing this at all. So my case for God is like this, and I'm using theism to refer to my specific hypothesis of the perfect mind creating the universe. First, I'm going to say that theism is simpler than atheism, as it makes less foundational commitments. The second thing I would say is that theism has more explanatory power than atheism. The world looks more like what we'd expect if God exists than if God does not exist. And I understand that like not all atheists are going to say that God does not exist. So when I'm saying atheism here in this presentation, I'm specifically referring to the claim that God does not exist. I know that many people may disagree with this definition. I'm not here to debate the definition of atheism. So if you have a different definition, that's fine with me. I'm just trying to keep this as simple as possible. So yeah, for by atheism, just for my opening statement, I mean the position that God does not exist. Okay, so part 1 of my case is just that theism is simpler than atheism. So here's what I think. Theism makes one commitment regarding the nature of the foundation. It's perfect. From perfection, I think we could follow that like traditional divine attributes like power and knowledge and goodness can follow from it. So yeah, I think that theism is going to be simpler because it makes one commitment, whereas many versions of atheism, and remember, atheism and the idea that like God does not exist, I understand there's different views on the definition, but that's just what I'm doing here. A view where reality is fundamentally indifferent pose something that's mind independent, whereas theism can explain all the same data about the world solely with mind, I think, which is what we know exists, I think, foundationally. So a perfect being is also going to lack arbitrary limits and brute geometric commitments that an atheistic foundation probably has to add on. So Josh Rasmussen has a great quote about this, where he says that all elements alike have an outside explanation upon which they depend. Yet the basic features of the foundation, by contrast, lack an outside explanation. Therefore, the basic features of the foundation have no limits. So what I'm thinking about here is thinking about like 2 different ideas. One is that like God exists and a perfect mind creates the universe. And I think in that theory, you really have like one thing that's kind of fundamental that we have to assert that's like brute. And you can say maybe 2, something that's perfect. And you can say like I'm fine saying like a perfect mind. Whereas if like reality isn't like that, and it's something indifferent, you're probably gonna have to pose brute limits. Like for example, let's say the foundation is like 10,294 fundamental units of matter energy. Then the question becomes like, why are there 10,294 rather than 10,295 or 10,293? Why are the particles the size they are, the weight they are, and so on? It seems like an indifferent picture of the foundation of the universe, you have to add a bunch of things into your hypothesis of the foundation that are not given. So you're just like adding on brute facts. So long story short, I think theism posits less brute facts than atheism. Trent Dougherty has a really great quote in the Blackwell Companions of Problem of Evil. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, but here's what he says. Counting up, I'm skipping to the green, that big green section at the bottom. Counting up the number of brute facts in naturalism by the same method used earlier will be difficult, but it seems that inevitably it postulates more than one brute fact existent with only 2 properties held in the simplest way. So, Dougherty says that like God is fundamentally like zero limitation and full of like knowledge and power, and that's it, and that's what positing. Whereas under like atheism or naturalism, you have to posit a bunch more at your foundation if you have like a fleshed out theory of everything. Okay, so that's part 1 where I want to say that theism is simpler than atheism. Now part 2 is where I want to say that theism has more explanatory power than atheism. So here's what that means. There's many phenomena in the world that are more likely to exist if there is a God rather than if there is not a God. So again, going back to this, I'm not trying to have some knockdown proof where I'm going to say consciousness exists, therefore God, atheism can't explain consciousness. I have no interest in that kind of argument because I just don't think it's super fruitful and doesn't lead to a lot of good debate. What I'm asking you to do is think. Okay, so let's take a step back and think. Let's say like God exists and there's a perfect mind that creates the universe. What would we expect the universe to look like if that's the case? And then I want you to think like, what if like God doesn't exist and there is no perfect mind that created the universe? What would the world look like if that's not the case? So what I would say is that there's a bunch of different facts that are more expected on that theism side of things where there is a God than on that atheism side of things where there is no God. So I'm going to say things like the existence of embodied conscious moral agents is more likely if God exists than if God does not exist. Not saying that it can exist under atheism. If you have like you can explain consciousness through like the brain state's fine. Like that's totally compatible with my argument. So if Matt wants to bring up brain states, then cool. I don't really have anything I'm going to push back on, I think, in terms of that respect. I'm just saying that the existence of these conscious moral agents like you and me and Matt, who can make decisions and have debates and come to moral judgments and just do all kinds of amazing things, is more expected if God exists than if God does not exist. Because surely our existence is a good thing. if it wasn't a good thing, why don't we just like wipe out humanity right now? Like I think we all agree it's a terrible idea. We shouldn't do it, and it's because human beings are good. Our existence is good. We may cause suffering and all kinds of bad things, but all things else, our existence is good. I think the existence of accurate moral knowledge is more expected on theism than atheism. How can we come to conclusions like murder is wrong, or like torturing babies for fun is wrong? It seems like on theism, it's more like we would have this accurate moral knowledge. Is say if God exists, we might want our moral knowledge to be directed towards like the good, to come towards truth. Whereas like under like an atheistic view, where our moral knowledge is a product of our evolutionary history, it seems more likely to me that it's possible that maybe we come to other beliefs that would have like survival advantages. Maybe killing babies would be good for like a survival advantage in some possible world under atheism. Not all possible worlds, I'm not saying that, but under maybe like some. In that case, maybe our moral knowledge would incline us to say that like that's good. But surely like you get repulsive if you think that it's actually there's a possible world where that's okay. So I also think the existence of a good and beautiful world is evidence for theism. I'm not saying look at the trees, therefore God exists. No interest there again in that. But just saying that like a beautiful world, a world where we have like beautiful things like sunrises, is more likely on the existence of God as a hypothesis than like God not existing. Also the existence of free agents, widespread theistic belief, where it looks like most people across time have seemed to believe in something, like my definition. Definitely not everyone. Definitely, you know, not everyone's a monotheist, things like that. But widespread belief in some sort of theism where there is some sort of God or gods seems to be pretty widespread. We could look at the data of like cosmic fine-tuning and say that theism also better explains our sense of meaning and purpose. So long story short, there's a bunch of things that are more likely to exist if there is a God rather than if there is not a God. Okay. So again, I'm not claiming that atheism cannot explain these facts. I'm just saying that these phenomena are more likely to exist if God exists than if God does not exist. We can say the probability of some fact on theism is high, whereas the probability of some fact on atheism is low. So, therefore, the probability of certain fact on theism is going to outweigh that fact on atheism. So, all things being equal, some sort of thing like insert like embodied conscious moral agents or fine-tuning or moral knowledge is going to be evidence that favors theism over atheism. These aren't conclusive proofs, but just evidence, like evidential chips in favor of theism. Okay, so part 3, putting the threads together. In sum, what I'm doing is like I'm trying to compare theories here. If a theory is simpler and has more explanatory power, it should be preferred over its rivals. So the first part I argue that theism is simpler than atheism. I think that simplicity matters because the more complex your hypothesis is, the more ways it can be false. For example, compare theism with the idea of the whole universe being necessary. I think that if we posit, say, maybe like a perfect mind to create a universe, I have maybe in my brute facts, a perfect mind, 1, and it creates the universe 2. And you notice distinct perfect in mind, maybe we got 3. Whereas under the hypothesis that maybe like the universe is necessary, we have to say like maybe like the quantum field that created the universe is absolutely necessary, or like matter energy and all of its units are necessary, and there's like 10 to the 82nd and not one more or one less, things like that. And you're gonna add a bunch more commitments on that atheistic hypothesis than that theistic hypothesis. Also, I think explanatory power, that second part matters because it shows which hypothesis best explains the data we experience. This is why we've shifted to things like thinking the Earth isn't 6,000 years old, because there's a bunch of evidence that's better explained by an Earth that's a lot older than that other hypothesis that it's like 6,000 years old. Given the simplicity of theism along with its explanatory power, I think it should be preferred unless another theory can come to rival it. And long story short, I think the existence of God maximizes explanation while minimizing limits. So that's all I have. Thanks. You, just so you know.
Sorry. Yeah, so that was right on 10 minutes, or just under. So now it's Matt's time to respond, so take it away.
All right, let me start a timer here so I can get visibly here. All right, so the easiest way for me to start is to tell you what goes through my head when a debates topic is presented. And the first step should be to define terms. As Zach is the one defending the proposition, he's going to need to define those terms, and he's done that to some extent. That said, until there were definitions, I just had to go with whatever my understanding was. So does God exist is a common topic, and the person defending could have one of many different gods in mind. If someone doesn't want to defend a specific theological topic, they'll often propose topics that are more vague. It's rare that we get someone who proposes a topic that is more specific than the bare minimum, and that's what I happened here that I was intrigued by, this notion The debate wasn't, is the universe a creation? Is the universe probably a creation? It wasn't, is it an intentional creation of an existing agent? It was of a perfect mind. And so I had to sit here and think about, what do we mean by a perfect mind? Well, we're not talking about something like perfect numbers, because that's a mathematical usage that's very narrow. It's basically, when you talk about perfect numbers, that's just something that we applied to it. It's on.
The economy is tanking. Reckless, far-left betterment solution, more spending, higher taxes.
This is hyperbole. This is the cool concept, and we're going to call these perfect. We're also not talking about something like a perfect circle, though that may be closer, because perfect circle is merely like an abstract concept that can't exist in actuality. But there's people out there who are like, I've seen people draw a perfect circle. No, you haven't. Well, I've seen one printed out. No, you haven't. At the finest resolution, there's no perfect circle. It can't exist. As soon as there's a line weight or a thickness that would be visible, it's no longer the circle by definition, and there's no way to get to that resolution. We misuse the word perfect regularly. And even here, I had to wonder, is this just hyperbole? Because I think we'd agree that none of us have a perfect mind. I don't have a perfect mind. I don't know anybody else who does. And so, how do we know that a perfect mind is even possible? I have no idea. I don't know how one could demonstrate that a perfect mind is possible. I don't even know how one could really demonstrate what a perfect mind is. How could we identify a perfect mind? How could we identify what is the product of a perfect mind, whether something is created by an imperfect mind or a nearly perfect mind or an almost perfect mind or just one perfect measurement short of a perfect mind or an imperfect mind? These are all important questions for this debate because we need a mechanism to identify this. And so what's the mechanism? There's a temptation to say, I can do things at my maximum level, or I could do things beneath my capacity. A pool hustler comes to mind. Play at my max skill level, or I could play at a lower skill level. Because of that, we assume that a perfect mind could create imperfection. But that is a flawed assumption that I'm not convinced is the case. I'm able to play beneath my level because I have the ability to be imperfect. Perfect being have the ability to be imperfect as well? Does the perfect being have the ability to create something that isn't perfect? Clear, and I need some evidence and a mechanism and a way to demonstrate that, hey, not only is this a creation, but it's an imperfect creation created by a perfect mind. Zach is in the unfortunate position of needing to demonstrate that a perfect mind is possible, that the product of a perfect mind is identifiable, that the universe is the sort of imperfection that a perfect mind could create if it could. And then finally, that this is in fact what happened. I'm interested to hear the mechanism, the evidence in supporting those. Well, if the universe is a product of an imperfect mind, resolution fails. And if the universe isn't the product of a mind, then the resolution fails. And if we have no reasonable path to reach the conclusion that a perfect mind did it, then the resolution fails. That's a tough spot to be in, which is one of the reasons I was interested in that this was more than just, oh, does God exist or does God probably exist? We have exactly one universe to investigate. We don't have other universes to compare it to. We are limited in our ability to investigate, and we can't explore beyond the boundaries of space-time. And so any scientific exploration of those subjects is hypothetical, or a mathematical extrapolation or investigation that is speculative and based on assumptions, which is why you're likely to hear probabilistic analyses. Imagine that you're in a room, and you've been in that room for your whole life, and there's no windows or doors. Don't ask me how this works, it's magic. We're going to hear a lot about magic, I'm sure. Thicker the walls. Until you can get outside the room, you have no way of telling how thick the walls are. Maybe the walls, ceiling, and floor all go on forever. Maybe the room is all that exists. But if you assert that there is something beyond those walls, that the walls have some thickness and there is some space behind there, you would need a way to demonstrate it. You're locked in that room and you have no way to explore outside of it. I don't know how you would do that. This is the position that we're in. What if you were to tell me that you were getting messages from outside the room when you can't even demonstrate that there is an outside, something that exists beyond space-time? This is the analogy. We find ourselves. We inhabit space-time. We don't have the ability to explore beyond it that I'm aware of. After thousands of years of speculation, we're in a position where the God believers have firmly placed their deity beyond our ability to investigate. It's bad enough that space-time is outside our ability to investigate, but so is, as far as I can tell, a perfect mind. How do you tell the difference between a perfect mind and a mind that's almost perfect? How do you tell when the universe is the result of any mind, let alone a perfect mind? What's the mechanism that confirms our result, or that our universe is the result of a perfect mind, but another universe naturally produced? or the result of an imperfect mind. Because you would need to say that, in some cases, not a probabilistic thing, but a demonstration of the impossibility of the contrary, to say that it is impossible for a universe to form absent a perfect mind as its progenitor. It's like trying to solve the problem of whether something is all-powerful or very powerful. I did this, in discussions referred to maximal power, and it's interesting that Zach would use maximal greatness as a kind of stand-in for, seems to be, I don't want to say it is, but it seems to be like a hyperbolic use of perfect. Something is more powerful than you, be just your imperfect brain reaching a conclusion that you can't support. It's like saying, I know that I know that I know that I know that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's a profession of how confident you are, but it doesn't actually tell us what you know at all. Telling Zach with that, it's just what popped in my head when I was thinking about it. So the other thing is, would a perfect mind need to create or choose to create anything at all, let alone imperfection? If you're perfect, then one would presume you lack nothing, you need nothing, you are missing nothing. There's no reason for you to do anything or create anything, because there's nothing for you to learn or discover. You are complete. That would be perfection in the greatness. And the thing that the perfect being lacks is imperfection, and it seeks imperfection, so it creates that. But if we're using perfection as sort of an abstract concept of the ultimate, then it couldn't be lacking those things. It's like saying God knows everything that's knowable, but he doesn't know what you're going to do. How is that the case? Going into a rebuttal immediately in my opening, one of the problems here is that I want to just talk about, oh, here's a bunch of things that I think are better explained by theism, and theism is simpler. We can do that. The problem is that, we'll get into it on each one of these, I reject pretty much every assertion that Zach made, and really am keen on interest. Demonstrate that theism is simpler than atheism. Demonstrate that simpler is relevant. I know you're trying to use a version of Occam's razor, but Occam's razor isn't about simplicity. It's about multiplying entities unnecessarily. And theism has no explanatory power. It doesn't have better explanatory power. I'll get into the how and why of all these in the discussion. Here, I think, Zach listed off the list of things that are more likely on theism. Moral agency, moral knowledge, a good and beautiful world, free agents, theistic belief, fine-tuning, meaning and purpose. Heard in all of that, I bet I could sit here and ask you, what do you think the key word is in there? For me, the key word there is agents. We are thinking agents, and that is all that is required to explain all of those other things, because the truth is those agents are then going to be moral agents because there's interactions that you have to evaluate. Those agents are going to have moral opinions. They have moral knowledge is a different thing. Those agents are likely to look at the world and think that it is good and beautiful because it suits them, but they evolved to fit that world rather than the world being created for them. Zach mentioned a sunrise. There are people who might not think a sunrise is beautiful. Good and beautiful is somewhat subjective. But of course, the things living in an environment are going to be happy that the environment suits them for living. And if they didn't, they wouldn't be there to do that in the first place. And agents who are flawed thinkers are going to have theistic beliefs that aren't justified by evidence. They are going to see the world as if it was fine-tuned for them rather than what is the most likely explanation from science, which is that we are tuned to fit the world that we live in. And we have our views and opinions about meaning and purpose. The only thing that is required for all of those things that Zach listed is agents interacting. We're going to get right answers and wrong answers. If your theistic model, if you're going to try to claim that it's more likely, any theistic model that has been proposed as an explanation for everything in the world that doesn't have that condition was already a bad explanation to begin to. That is independent of whether or not it's true.
Cool, thanks for that. Again, right on time. And now we're going into open discussion. So, Zach, do you want to start by picking up a point to discuss?
Sure. Thanks for that, Matt. There's a lot of great points that I'd love to be brought up here. Maybe I'd love to start with just like evidence, because we can talk about simplicity and talk about explanatory power. So when I brought forth my facts of like saying, hey, that are better expected by like theism than atheism. In the next slide, I talked about like saying like bringing like a broadly like Bayesian form of argument. We're saying like the probability of certain facts is more likely on like theism than atheism. If you were just say to grant that, and I know you wouldn't, but say that if you were to grant that one of these things was more likely on like the perfect mind hypothesis than like another hypothesis, would that be evidence for God then? Like, if that's the case, like, if I, like, do you think my argument's, like, logically sound? I can bring back the slide if you need me to. So I'd be curious about that before we start on the specifics.
Sure, let me make sure I understand the question right. You're asking me that if I were convinced that any given fact was, in fact, more likely upon the hypothesis that a perfect mind exists, would that be evidence for a perfect mind?
Yeah.
Yes, but would it be sufficient evidence to warrant accepting that there was a perfect mind? No. In much the same way that I'm a magician and I can do things with a deck of, well, I used to be able to do things with a deck of cards. I can't really do as much anymore. But if I were to deal you 13 spades, more likely that that is a result of me cheating than that it happened naturally. But that is not, while it is evidence for the proposition that I perhaps cheated, it is not enough to warrant a conclusion that I cheated, because we know that the perfect bridge hand, or 13 spades, has happened in games, and that this is a possibility. And so you would need to, there would need to be more than that. Think about here when we say on the hypothesis that there is a perfect mind. I'm not sure that an imperfect mind, that and say, this is more likely with a perfect mind. How do we tell that?
That's great. First, I want to say, like, with your like analogy and things, Matt, I totally agree with you. Like, I think this is super cool that like we can have some agreement that like, hey, if there's, and I can say the same thing in favor of atheism. I think there's arguments that like provide weight towards atheism. So I think that like there's evidence for atheism. And I mean hard atheism. Anytime I bring atheism here, I understand you.
Sure, yeah, I get it. And while I'm not necessarily here to defend strong atheism, hard atheism, it's not a problem. And if we want to swap words for the people who are confused, generally when we're talking about theism, we're on the hypothesis that a God exists versus atheism on the hypothesis that a God doesn't exist.
Yeah, and so with your question with regards to like the indifferent mind, Nat, I'm going to say we just have to compare the theories. In a similar way as we do like scientific, like we have different theories, explain different things, I'm going to say like, sure, let's bring forward like the perfect mind hypothesis. Let's bring maybe like the imperfect mind. Let's bring the evil mind. Let's say there's no mind, and we have different theories. I'm going to say, like, when we compare the theories, like, whatever we bring out, like, I think my model is the best theory. So maybe like a less than perfect mind, I would say that's just a more complex hypothesis that's going to take a hit on simplicity, and things like that. So I think that, like, large story short, like not a lot of your opening, but a good bit, you're like, why say, like, there's a perfect mind rather than maybe, like, a 99% perfect mind, or, like, you know, something in the middle. I'm going to say, like, we should just compare the theories, and I think whatever theory that, like, a non-theistic hypothesis is going to have, I think my theory is the best. So that's kind of how I see things.
Right. I think I want to, just for clarity, in the same way that you're clarifying the theism or atheism, somebody in chat is going to have their head explode if you keep swapping hypothesis and theory. You don't have a theory. You don't have a hypothesis that has been through testing and peer review and all the things to get to a graduation point of a theory. So we're not comparing theory. We're comparing hypothesis, and we don't really have a hypothesis unless it's falsifiable and testable. So really what we have is a speculation. On the loose hypothesis that there is a God, what would we expect? Well, it depends on the God, right? I mean, what is it like? Let's pick one. For example, you think that a good and beautiful world, more likely on theism, atheism. But isn't a good and beautiful world subjective? And isn't it the case that being that finds itself in a world that's suitable for it is going to find things about that world that it views as good and beautiful? And that it requires nothing more than that person's appreciation for the fact that, hey, I can breathe, I can see, I can interact, oh, there's flowers there, they smell nice. Why do they smell nice? Do they smell nice for me? Do they smell nice for the bees? Is it for a pollination thing? Is there some intent behind it, or is this just how it works? It's really easy to say it's simpler. You could all, the way in which you're saying or suggesting that theism is simpler really doesn't fit, I don't think, with sort of the Occam's razor approach to this, because I don't think theism is simple. My position is that there's no reason to believe there's a God until there's sufficient evidence that warrants it. And so when the people who would say, hey, if a God exists, that's a better explanation for X than atheism. But that not only is it the fact that it's a better explanation, or it is more consistent with it, or what that is about your expectations. That's about what you would expect if there is a God. You and I begin with the same universe, as far as I can tell, and you're the one that's adding something to it. By adding a God to it, the biggest thing there could be, you are adding a God, magnificent powers, the ability to do pretty much anything that's conceivable. That is not a simple hypothesis at all. That is an incredibly complex hypothesis. What you're saying is there's a magical box out there outside of space-time, or wherever you're going to place it. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. That can do anything and everything, and that becomes the explanation, the best explanation. And if there is a magical box out there, here's what we'd expect. That doesn't make it simpler. It just makes it more hidden.
So there's a lot you just put out here, Matt, because we started with like looking at specific evidence and like explanatory power, and then you talked about like simplicity. And I'd love to talk about simplicity too. But let's focus on explanatory power for a sec. So we talked about like the generic like Bayesian argument, and like it seems like we agree that like if that argument would run, like we'd have some evidence for theism. You mentioned the good and beautiful world. If it's okay with you, I'd love to talk about the embodied conscious moral agents first, because that's what you said. Sure. Like everything else seems to like fall like underneath. So here's a test. Like my friend Tim talked about this, where we could say like maybe not the same as a scientific test, but a philosophical test to say that like obviously my theory like would explain this better than like an atheistic theory. So saying that like perfect mind created the universe, this being is like perfect, so it's morally perfect. So if it's morally perfect, I would say that he would care about the existence of moral agents. The existence of moral agents would be more likely under this hypothesis than a view of the world where fundamental reality is just indifferent to moral agents. It just doesn't give a crap whether moral agents exist. If you think about like epistemically all the different ways things could have gone just from like the principle of indifference, knowing that I would say that like given all the different possibilities, one where that there are these moral agents would be more likely under a view where there's a morally perfect being that would like these agents than a view that would not. And I'm not saying this proves God exists or anything like that. I just say this is an evidential chip that provides some evidence in favor of the theistic hypothesis. So that.
It seems to me that when you say under the hypothesis that a perfect mind would care about moral agents, that's an important part of why would it create moral agents or agents at all in the first place. But let's assume that it did. It also seems like you're ignoring all of the other factors that one would expect. So,
I'm sorry, I know you don't like being interrupted. I could say, like, you could say, like, and I have friends like Emerson Green, he's an atheist, he has a great podcast, Counterapologetics. He would say, like, yeah, there is, like, these moral agents that provide some evidence, and if you bring up, like, suffering and hiddenness and all these things, like, yeah, these things exist, and they provide evidence, like, contrary. But we still have with moral agents, like, there's some evidence pushing us towards theism. And I'm sorry, I won't interrupt again, Matt, that's my bad, but I wanted to just bring that up.
Sure, so what you seem to be saying is that on theism, we would expect the God to care about moral agents, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that God also act perfectly to make sure that those agents have a perfect understanding of morality? Why wouldn't that God also interact to make sure those agents don't disagree about what moral views are and things like that? We're skipping past all of the problems, all of the things that seem to be counter-indicators and potentially defeaters for the proposition, and focusing only on one simple thing. If God, then people. But that ignores or moral agents. If God, then moral agents. And that ignores all the factors about moral agents, which is we don't agree on moral issues. We've had, and our moral views have changed over time. And if there is a God and he creates moral agents, why is he completely hidden? Why isn't he answering the questions? Why isn't he giving us new information? Why isn't he demonstrating his existence? Why isn't he showing the people who are wrong in their moral conclusions how they should be right? Aren't those the things we would expect under theism as well?
love this, Matt. I love what you're doing because it follows. It seems like like we're kind of agreeing on this fundamental method. Like we could talk about like hiddenness and disagreement and suffering. Like I'm cool with that. But I guess my goal I'm starting with is smaller than that. I'm trying to like establish like there is evidence for the existence of God. And I could say like for now I could say like sure, Matt. Let's just say that like suffering and like changing morality, disagreement. Let's say these all count against God. All I'm trying to say right now at this point in the context of the debate is say like really, 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 really tiny. Like there is some evidence for God because of moral agents. What do you think about that? Would you say yes, there is? No, there isn't? Because I know there's all these other chips, and like for the sake of where we're at right now in this context, I'm fine like giving those to you. Though I obviously would push back. But I'm just saying at this moment when we look at moral agents, this is like some, even if you want to say it's really tiny evidence that pushes us in favor of the God hypothesis.
It doesn't. It doesn't and shouldn't push it at all. The fact that there are facts that are consistent with the hypothetical explanation for those facts is absolutely trivial. What sort of proposed explanation for facts would it be if it wasn't consistent with the facts?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I'm trying to get at this like no evidence claim. Like if we're going to say there's no evidence for the existence of God, there's no facts.
They was supposed to be about whether or not a perfect mind created the universe. At what point did I say there's no evidence?
And you said that. I'm just trying to say that.
Okay, then why are we sitting here talking about something I haven't said?
If I put it on you that you said that, that's my bad, Matt. I wasn't trying to push it on you because you clearly have not said that. All I'm trying to do at this point is say, hey, there are these things that are going to push us, like there is evidence for God that's going to push us in that direction of a perfect mind creating the universe. That's all I'm trying to do at this point.
And what I'm saying is the fact that there are facts that are consistent with the explanation for that your proposed explanation for those facts is absolutely trivial. I would not consider that evidence for a proposition. The mere fact that there are facts that are consistent with something, like the fact that there's a dead body is consistent with the butler did it as a hypothesis. Okay? It isn't a fact that points to the butler killing someone. It is a fact that we're trying to explain. We have a dead body. You've proposed, not you, somebody has proposed that the butler has done it. And then they say, look, there's a dead body there. That is evidence for the proposition that the butler killed him. No, that's an evidence for somebody being dead. That's potentially evidence for somebody killing them. And until you draw the connection that necessarily ties those two, it's not an evidence for a proposition. You've come up with a hypothesis, and the only thing that you can point to, and you seem really keen on this, I want to make sure that nobody can walk away from here saying there's no evidence for God. Well, I'm not aware of any evidence that is expressly for a proposition and exclusive of other propositions.
Any of you can explain any of the data for the most part, so that's interesting. So I just want to get to this, and the probability of embodied moral or conscious agents. I would say this is more expected under theism than atheism. I'm using theism as a perfect mind created the universe. Agree or disagree with that?
I don't have any way to assess that, because on theism as a proposition where there's a perfect mind, my expectation was that it would be the only thing. There was no point to or need to create anything at all, let alone create imperfection and not provide all of the other things with it. The defeaters are all of the other factors. But also, I don't have we have one universe, and we have one set of facts to assess. And what we know is that there are conscious agents. I have no way of evaluating whether that's more likely on, I need a more specific theism. If your proposition is there is a theistic God that wants to create moral agents, well then yes, it's more likely on that hypothesis than it is on there is a universe that is following naturalistic progression. But naturalistic process, as far as we can tell, led to us, so the odds of it happening are 1. Or the probability of it happening, sorry, is 1. Odds would require a different formulation.
Okay, so originally, you said you think that like God wouldn't create anything. Then you said say you believe that there's a perfect mind or like a God that would want to create embodied moral agents. Then you say yes, that would be in favor of that hypothesis.
Can you say it one more time? I don't think I followed it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So, to me, you said assuming that there is some sort of perfect like being that would want to create moral agents, then like yes, the existence of like us would be more respected on that hypothesis than like an indifferent hypothesis. And like you're fine saying that.
No, I don't know. I don't know. So I don't have any way to calculate or approximate the probability. If the proposition is a theistic God who wants to create a perfect theistic God who wants to create imperfect beings exists, then on that hypothesis, we would expect to see imperfect beings, but I don't know how to determine whether that's more or less likely than if there is no perfect theistic God. What's the likelihood of moral agents arising, or however? I apologize if we've changed terms a couple of times. I don't know how to evaluate that. I don't have anything to compare it to. I don't have any other universes to look at. All I can look at it is what is, and then you have proposed an explanation. And the explanation you proposed of a perfect mind, I think that comes with a lot of other factors. And my question then is, okay, certainly if there's a perfect mind that wants to create things, we would expect there to be created things. But other expectations I would have of a perfect mind, I would have expected it to create perfect things.
Then like maybe there is like some being that wants people like us, like there is some evidence, like even if it's really tiny, for it, because like we in fact exist, but then we're looking at all these other things that like really push us against that idea. Do I have you right?
You seem really desperate to get me to say that there's evidence for God. And what I've said repeatedly is that when I say there's evidence for a proposition, I'm not willing to just say these facts are consistent with this hypothesis. It is these facts are exhaustively or exclusively consistent with that hypothesis. I don't want to say there's evidence for God, just like isn't evidence for the proposition that a butler killed that body.
Okay, I guess maybe we can go a little bit different direction. Like, couldn't like any theory explain all the facts? Like this is like we still have like I'm not a young Earth creationist. Like young Earth creationists can come up with all sorts of like crazy explanations to like explain the facts of say like decay and things like this. Like isn't this why like surely like anyone can have an explanation to explain all the data. Like it's not like we're gonna have some theory that can like explain everything away and make no other theory like totally like and like shut everyone up for like all eternity. Like to me, it seems like any theory can explain all the data, even if it's like really, really crappy explanations.
Most theories don't, apart from perhaps a theory of everything, which that's something else. Explain facts within a particular realm, a narrow realm. Basically, tried to come up with a theory of everything, and the hypothesis is that there's a perfect being. I don't know how to demonstrate. I don't know how anybody can demonstrate that.
People say my generation doesn't vote, but we're about to prove them wrong. I've told so many of my friends already to vote Josh Shapiro for governor on November 8th. Make sure you are registered to vote and have a plan at iwillvote.com and send Doug Mastriano a packet.
Perfect being is possible? To identify one, or what a perfect being would do? All this seems to be is Zach has some expectations of what the world would look like if there was the God that he believes exists. And if he defines that God, I'm going to have expectations of what the world will look like. But what I know right now is what the world looks like. And it's also consistent, a magical being outside of space-time that's decided not to intervene or give a crap about any of us at all. That's there. It's also consistent with there being 12 perfect beings who act or haven't provided evidence or haven't given these. You could just keep doing this endlessly, and in that case, why stop at one being? Why not 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 12? And so that's where we get into Occam's razor, talking about multiplying entities unnecessarily. The difference between the two of us is that you're wanting to multiply it to one perfect being, and I'm not. I'm at 0 right now.
In place of that 0, this is why I think if people get a chance, read the debate book between Oppie and Kenny Pierce, because like you could sure you can say 0, but in place of that 0, like maybe like Matt, like I'm not saying you have to have an explanation right now as we have this debate in October 21st, 2022, but like surely like in place of that 0, there's something like Oppie would talk about like his idea of like a hypothesis of a foundational like initial state. That's going to create everything. and like Kenny Pearson, that they pushed back and said like, hey, like this theistic theory can do a better job explaining these things. Like you may say like, sure, there's 0 gods, and I may say, yeah, there's 1 God. But in place of like that question of like explaining like why is there anything at all, like what's foundational, if anything, like there's got to be something on that. Like if you're gonna say there's 0, if there's nothing on the like theistic side, there's got to be something that's gonna fill in that explanation for why there's got to be anything at all.
So what I'm talking about here is there some explanation for the universe? Sure. What it is? No.
I agree.
Could it be that it's a perfect God? I don't know, because I don't know if a perfect God's possible. Could it be that the universe is entirely explained without appealing to a perfect God? I have no idea. It doesn't seem to be anything that we could rule out. So when you're putting in a God and I'm putting in 0 gods, that doesn't mean I'm saying there's no explanation. I'm saying you've narrowed the explanation to a specific type of explanation, and I haven't. I'm open to whatever explanation actually is the result of the evidence and argument.
To say the same thing, but like I think I'm open to whatever explanation is like the evidence and the argument. I just think the evidence and the arguments are going to favor my theory over your theory. So I don't think that's something that like you can just have.
I don't have a theory. I just acknowledged I don't have an explanation for the universe. The thing is responding to people who are saying the best explanation for the universe is a perfect mind, and I'm saying, okay, demonstrate that a perfect mind is possible. Define a perfect mind. Show me how you identify a perfect mind versus a nearly perfect mind. How do you demonstrate that the universe is the product? Probabilistic arguments like this are never, ever, ever going to convince me, and shouldn't convince anyway. Bayesian analysis is entirely conditioned on the priors, and priors would essentially, for a universe, require other universes, and you don't have any, so you have no priors. So you're doing best guesses at best. In this case, you're not even doing Bayesian analysis. You're actually just looking at, say, hypothesis that there's a God that can create. To create, it will create, or creation is likely or expected. Yes, that's true. But on the hypothesis that the butler wanted to kill the person, then the dead body becomes evidence for the proposition. But that's not the way evidence works.
And so what do you, like I've heard you say demonstration a lot, like what do you mean by demonstration, Matt?
Show it.
What do you mean, but what do you mean by show it? Like empirically show it? Like just show that it's more likely than another thing? Like what do you mean by show it?
So here's the thing, is you're asking me how I should demonstrate what you believe. I don't know. People ask me all the time, what would change your mind about a God? I don't know. But if there is a God, that God should know, and he should be capable of doing it. And the fact that he hasn't done it means that he either doesn't exist or doesn't want me to know he exists. So you're the one who's coming in here with a hypothesis. Why would you ask me how to demonstrate it? You need to demonstrate it. I don't think it can be demonstrated. I've seen no way for anybody. It's the same thing with space-time. It exists outside of space-time. How do you know there is anything outside of space-time? How do you know that there's a being that could exist outside of space-time? To me, existence is necessarily temporal, and existence in its normative sense is spatial and temporal. So to say something exists outside of space-time is nonsense to me. And so when you are saying an imperfect mind, but I've reached the conclusion that there's a perfect mind behind all of this, a cool assertion, why do you think there's a perfect mind, and how could you tell?
Yeah, that's good. So why I asked you like what a demonstration is and like what would that mean to you is because I don't think a demonstration of God is like necessary. I don't think you really need to demonstrate much of anything to really rationally believe it. What I think you need is because I don't think demonstrations, like while they're great, again, like any of you can explain all the data. That's why we still have young Earth creationists who, like, it seems like it's very impossible to hold to, but they can come up with all sorts of theories to explain it, even if there's clear evidence, like, against, things like young Earth creationism. All I'm saying is, like, if we're gonna say, like, God exists, I'm saying, like, my two simple claims. There's things that have, like, that are more speculative if God exists and if God does not exist, and theism simpler than atheism. And those two things are gonna push us in favor of theism. And I don't disagree with those, but, like, I think if those two claims are true, then we have really good reason to be a theist over some other view of things.
But first of all, creationism doesn't explain all the facts. Creationism explains a narrow subset of the facts. When you look at all the facts, it debunks creationism. So you can't say, well, if you agree with me, then why were you saying that any theory or any model can explain all the facts, and then use creationism as an example when neither one of us think creationism comes even remotely close to explaining all the facts? Meanwhile, when you say you don't think demonstrations are important, Well, we are never going to reach agreement because I'm a skeptic and I want to believe things when there's a good reason to. And that requires a demonstration. It requires a sound argument supported by evidence and facts, not just a, hey, this is more likely under my hypothesis. Because under the hypothesis that there are universe-creating pixies, we would expect a universe, and we have a universe. So therefore, the existence of the universe is evidence for universe-creating pixies in the exact same extent that it is to a perfect mind creating. That is, your hypothesis is not discrete enough, it is not testable, it is not falsifiable, it is not scientific. But it's really easy to propose explanations and then say, I don't care about demonstrations. Well, some of us do, and some of us aren't going to believe things until there's a demonstration. And in a world, sorry, I didn't mean to do the movie thing, it was just in my head. Where we inhabit. You take 10 people, 5 of them refuse to believe something until there's a good, solid demonstration for it, and the other 5 say they don't need a demonstration to warrant belief. Say, but as long as we're approximating probabilities, the 5 who are expecting and waiting for evidence, a more accurate model of the universe than the 5 who aren't.
I guess I should clarify, Matt. By demonstration, I was saying in terms of like demonstrations, I was thinking more like logical demonstrations. So where there's like a direct thing where like we have A and this necessarily follows like B is true. Like I do think like demonstrations, like you mean like chains of reasoning that lead to conclusions, like they're super important and they're valuable. So what I'm trying to understand is like, what do you mean by a demonstration? Like something that like gives us 100% certainty that something is true, like 99%. Like, because I'm just trying to understand what you mean because sure. I think it's important we're looking at like demonstrating God exists. Like, what do you mean by demonstrating God exists? Because I don't know what you mean by like a logical demonstration, something else. Like, what's going on here?
It's funny that you said you weren't talking about a logical demonstration, and then you said you were talking about chains of reasoning. That's a logical demonstration. A logical demonstration is a chain of reasoning. And I don't think you can be absolutely certain of anything, so I'm not advocating, and I've never advocated for absolute certainty. As a matter of fact, I reject the concept of absolute certainty because, well, the foundations of epistemology don't allow you to be absolutely certain, and you can't be more confident in the result than you can from the tool that provided the result. So this is why I went with maximal certainty or maximal confidence for that. Mm-hmm. Once again, you're back to asking me, what sort of demonstration would prove God? It depends on the God. And my answer is, most of the time, I don't know, but I'm not the one claiming that I've demonstrated it. When people say that they can demonstrate God, that's up to them. Like you think you've demonstrated a strong probability for the hypothesis. I don't think you've demonstrated anything other than what you think about what the world would be like if there was a God.
So do we have, like, Matt, do we have a demonstration that, like, other minds exist?
So as far as I know, there's no solution to the problem of hard solipsism, but I'm convinced that hard solipsism is false because I personally find it preposterous to think that I've written every great novel and every great song, and that I have been every caller into the show who's been frustrated and confused. It seems to me more of a leap to presume that all of this is a fiction. To me, just intuitively more reasonable that I share a mind with others. But do we have a way to demonstrate that? Not that I know of.
So then, like, do I need to have, like, some sort of, like, by that same, like, standard definition, do I, like, that same standard of, like what a demonstration is, like, then I don't need a demonstration of God either, right? If we don't have one for other minds, do I need one to have one? Do I need to have one for God? Or can I just say, like you said, like, we have really good reason to think that the solipsism hypothesis is false? Because, like, I mean, I didn't write all the books in the world. So, like, I'm saying, like...
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, one of the things is that what we're actually talking about at this moment, if I'm understanding it correctly, is there are certain presuppositions that we all need to make, and one of the presuppositions that I make is that I'm sharing a universe with other people and that I am interacting with them. That is an assumption that I have to make as a practicality, because I am aware that if I begin to live my life as if I am the only mind and the only person that matters, I will die. If I begin to live my life as if the reality that I experience isn't real, I will most certainly die. At least that's the evidence from what I've seen from supposed other people. But all of it together, I could test that. but I don't want to test that because I'd rather not die. I'd like to live. There is no practical necessity that requires me to make a decision about whether or not there is a God.
I'm trying to understand, like, where our disagreement is here. Like, it seems like we're both agreeing, like, I just don't really, like, I'm happy with where we're at right now. I don't really see demonstration of God isn't needed. And it doesn't seem like you push back on that. And
well, a demonstration of God, you may believe in a God without a demonstration. You may do it as intuitive. Somebody else may do it because of a sensus divinatus or whatever, whether it's real or perceived or anything else. I have no reason to be stuck in. So there are some things where you kind of got to make up your mind at least about how you're going to behave with regard to an issue, not with regard to the truth. So I'm going to behave as if you and I share a universe. Because personally, I find it preposterous that we don't. I think it would be arrogant and dismissive. If I'm wrong about it, then I'm just being a dick to everybody by assuming that they're all just figments of my imagination or being injected or whatever else. And so as a matter of practical necessity, I have to interact with the world as I experience. As a matter of practical necessity, I don't have to decide what the explanation of the universe is. I can sit here. It'll be dissatisfying. It'll nag at me. But I don't have to say, you know what? I've been around for 53 years. I've heard a lot of stuff. It's about time I decided what I think the explanation of the universe is. That is preposterous to me, because the time to decide what you think the explanation of the universe is when there's a demonstration supported by evidence for what the universe is. And if you're in a position where you don't want to care about demonstration, it's fine for you. But certainly, if I told you I believed something without demonstration, it would be absurd for me to think that you were somehow deficient in reason if you didn't accept the things that I accept.
I don't think you're deficient in reason at all. So maybe let's like look at something like controversial, like the nature, like say like the nature of like how quantum mechanics relates to like general relativity.
Can we not?
Like so, here's the point. I don't know the theory super well.
Here's the problem: is it's not my field.
The chakras. When I talked about Rick Rubin. Talk about the chakras.
Talking the trees, like how could you be in the chorus with something so horrid? You became boards for the floors and the doors of the warships. Anthropomorphic, the forest returned with a match made from itself and said burn us with that. Then left again and came back with that.
Talk about the chakras. When I talked about Rick. Talk about the chakras. When I talked about Rick Rubin. I talked about the 808.
The chakras is real.
Now, I'm gonna say some anti-Spanish shit. I'ma fuck your bitch. I'ma kill this nigga. 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 That's the real anti-Semitic shit that the Jewish people get paid off of.
I don't know what's this opioid thing is.
But being a crackhead wasn't cool back then. Being a
What?
crackhead wasn't cool. Now it seems like they're making it cool to be drinking lean and syrup and.
It's the most dangerous. It's the most dangerous thing that's facing our society.
So
why sign an artist that would promote that? Because I already answered that question. You weren't paying attention. She asked me talent or issues, and I said talent. But I have to. I can't give up on people. Don't you think that's hypocritical though? It's opportunistic. Yeah, I got people to feed. I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
Who's Dame Dash?
When I talk about the chakras, when I talked about Rick Rubin, I talked about the 808.